Hello, ladies. This is your Soul Love Coach here, coming to you on your Sunday, coming to give you a personal message to hopefully help you to kind of make it through and also to help you to get grounded on this sacred Sunday. And I know that I owe you guys a video. I know you that I owe you guys a retake, a redo around difficult and challenging relationships. So this is mostly what this video is going to be about for all of my married ladies or for ladies that are in, I guess, what I would call committed relationships that have been very challenging. I want to kind of share a few principles with you to help you to not get distracted by the negativity that may be going on in your house, specifically during this time and season where you really have no place else to go or be, and you have to be around that person who may be making life a little bit difficult. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic partner, even though I know most of the questions that I have gotten in our group have been around husbands. However, it could be a relative, it could be a mother, a grandmother, it could be someone who is living with you, it could be an adult child. There are lots of people that are very close to our hearts who can be very challenging for us to deal with. And what makes it hard is the fact that we love them and we want to be in a relationship with them. Because if it was just someone you didn't care about, you'd just be like, okay, fine, I don't have to deal with that. But for the people that we want to be in relationship with and are close to us, it is important, especially if you are really motivated and driven by relationships and your heart is in the driver's seat of your life. It is really, really important to you that your relationship work. And if it's not working, it tends to throw everything else off track. And so I want to share a few principles for you to think about as you navigate your own soul work and you begin to kind of separate out what belongs to that person, what is their stuff, and what is your stuff. And one of the first things that I talked about in the Facebook Live that was a little bit choppy, but one of the first things was the fact that what about that person and their interaction with you is familiar. My experience as a married person and just in general is that nothing is new. And very often we are recycling experiences. And so because we don't deal with our experiences, we get to a point in our lives where we become very intolerant of certain kinds of behavior. But the fact is, the behavior in itself is not new. The behavior has been around for a long time. And most of our soul wounds occur, remember, between the age range of, I would say, between like 6 and 9, some sort of major disruptor in our lives that gave us certain opinions and beliefs about how life works and what you can expect from people and what you can anticipate as far as yourself. That is a time frame that we begin to develop unconscious rules and those soul contracts that we talked about where, there's just some soul agreements that get made and we have kept them going for years. And you are just now getting to the point where you begin to acknowledge and recognize this contract is not working. And so I want to be able to kind of share with you some principles and just some things to help you to navigate through and to help you to kind of make sense of where you are. And like I said, to be able to sort out what belongs to you and what belongs to your partner. And so Again, one of the first things that I want you to begin to look at is whatever it is that you feel like you are experiencing over and over again, that you feel like, okay, this is a merry-go-round, whether it is being shut out or put down or criticized or judged, being told you're wrong. I'm trying to think of a lot of the different examples that I know tend to come up. Most of them have to do with being wrong, being judged, being criticized, and being told in multiple different ways that you are not enough, that something about you is flawed or not together. And so the first question that you get to ask yourself is, who was the first person to do that? I think the example that I shared before with all of you is when I found myself triggered in my own relationship, in my own marriage, because a lot of times I felt that my husband did not listen to me. He would make decisions without even talking to me. I would find out after the fact, and I really felt like my voice, my opinion did not matter in the marriage. And also, you have to look at what is my definition of marriage? What is my definition of what it means to be a wife? What is my definition of what it means for me to be in relationship with you? Definition as well as expectation. Now, I know today or yesterday, I think the devotional was around surrender your expectation, because a lot of times we have expectation without conversation. Now, in my case, I did have conversation, but what I discovered was that what I meant by certain things, and we were using the same words, same language, different meaning, did not mean the same thing. So people can say, I value family. Yes, I want to be partners. Yes, I believe marriage is a team. But the way that looks to that person and the way that looked to me did not come together at all. And so there became conflict. And so, so that's one part of it is, has there even been a conversation? Do you have agreement? Or is there just this invisible expectation of who you thought somebody would be? Because a lot of times, and I know I said this yesterday in yesterday's devotional, we marry a person's potential and we ignore who the person is and we ignore their patterns. You are in relationship with a person and you know who a person is not by their potential but by their pattern. And if, as Maya Angelou would say, when a person shows you who they are, it is up to you to believe it. And a lot of times we get stuck in the potential lane, in the expectation lane, and we ignore the person and the pattern. And so I want to ask you to look at, does my expectation, is it in conflict with who this person even is? Is it in alignment with their actual pattern? Is there anything in sync, or have I just kind of made up an imaginary person, and am I holding that person as the standard when the real person is over here and is totally different? And you got to be able to honestly look at, who am I dealing with? That's on the here and now level. As we look back historically, you can look at, okay, why do certain things really rub me the wrong way? And I've already let you know that a lot of times we are in relationship with what is familiar. We're not in relationship with what we want or even with what is right. We are in relationship with what we know, because what we know is easier and more comfortable than the unknown. Did you hear what I said? What you know is more comfortable than the unknown. even if what you know is chaotic and dysfunctional and does not work. We will gravitate toward the devil we know versus the unknown that we don't. And so many of us are in relationship with our wounded places because that is what is familiar. So if you were ignored and put down as a child, again, our gravitation is we are looking for someone to care. We are looking for someone who is going to show up. We are looking for someone to be what we did not have. But I've already told you nothing outside of you can fill the void within you. It just doesn't work that way. And I was a teenage girl who read romance novels to a fault that I really began to think this is how it works. That someday I'm just going to find this person who's just going to come and rescue me and sweep me off my feet. And I was just going to be in love forevermore. And that's not how life works. But when you are empty, when there is a void, you gravitate toward anything that you think will fill it. Doesn't mean it's reality. It just means we're going to gravitate toward what you think is going to fill it. And so I want you to be able to look at, where have I seen this behavior before? Now, I know specifically for some of you, you have family members. You have specific family members who wounded you, who spoke to you in unhealthy ways, who put you down, who called you names when you didn't do what they wanted you to do, who were manipulative, who were very destructive to your self-esteem. And even though you thought you were marrying different, you have put yourself in the same position where you are still in relationship with the familiar. So although you are married to someone who is supposed to love you, the same patterns still exist. And so a lot of times why we are having such a hard time handling it and dealing with it is the same little girl who was wounded in the home is the same little girl who now finds herself in a marriage. So just because you are 40 in your chronological age, in your heart and in your soul, you're still 8 years old. You're still the little girl who was told all kind of negative things about yourself. You're still the little girl who was told you weren't pretty enough, you weren't good enough, you weren't smart enough, or you're just stupid, or you talk too much, or whatever you were told about you. And so when you get into relationship with a man who is now telling you that you talk too much and you don't listen and you do whatever you want to do, your brain literally just goes back to the same place. Because it is amazing to me how brilliant, successful women who know how to get things done in their professional life go on silence and mute in their personal life. And whenever I see that, what I know for sure is that grown woman is the one who goes to work and it's the little girl who comes home. And it is time to bring the grown woman who goes to work and manages teams of people, who knows how to supervise, who knows how to direct, who knows how to organize and implement and execute. You are brilliant in your professional life. You can have the same power in your personal life. But you got to heal the little girl. You got to get that little girl back where she belongs, back in her place, because it is never a little girl's job to do what only a grown woman can do. And many of us are functioning. And I know I was there. I was straight up a 10-year-old in my marriage, even though I was 33 when I got married. But let my husband raise his voice at me, I'd turn into a 10-year-old. I didn't know how to handle that because 10-year-old Melissa did not manage conflict. We didn't do conflict in my house. If there was any yelling or anybody got in trouble, literally everybody went into shutdown. We just didn't do it. And you could cut the tension with a knife. So when I married someone who was more explosive and more blunt and more in your face, I didn't know what to do with that. I didn't know what to do with that. I didn't know how to handle that. I didn't know how to engage that. And even though I was a grown woman with, by then, 2 master's degrees, teaching other people how to manage their lives, I would shrink. I would shrink and I would close my mouth and I would literally die on the inside because I felt like I had no power. I didn't know what to do. My anxiety would kick up. I just could not manage that. I did not even know what to do with that. So for some of you who are physically being triggered, and I'm just plug my, I don't want to lose my connection. Sorry, you guys. But some of you are physically being triggered in your relationship. And again, I think one of the things I've shared with you is either we do fight or flight. We don't do both. And so most of us are flight. But there comes a point in the relationship where, and some of you have already been there, where literally you can't take anymore, where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And then next thing you know, you are acting like a woman you never knew you could be. Just totally outside of yourself. And it is, I'm starting to hear more and more frequently the phrase, I don't know what happened, Melissa. I just blacked out. Literally. I just lost it. I blacked out. I don't even know what I said. I don't know what I did. Next thing, my hands were around his neck. That type of stuff. Because we are at capacity. The little girl in you is at capacity for whatever it is that you have been tolerating for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and some of us even more than that. And so, again, part of what you have to do, number one, is separate out what is truth from what is fiction. What is the lie? And even though so many women and will say, well, those words don't affect me. When my spouse acts like this or like that, I just ignore them. I just let them go on their, rampage, their tangent. I just let them spew off. And we will tell ourselves, because cognitively we know what is true, but the soul does not. And if you allow certain things to be said to you over and over again, that is why intelligent women find themselves in a space where they're like, Melissa, I'm so confused. And my principle is you are never confused when you are connected to the truth, when you are connected to your own voice. And whenever we are confused, it is because we have lost connection with the truth of who we really are. And so that is why I am a firm believer in the fact that words do hurt. Words do matter. And that even though you may be cognitively saying, oh, I'm ignoring that. When you are in positions where you no longer can make confident decisions, or when you are second guessing everything you do, or you are doubting yourself and wondering, are you making the right decision? When you are secretly battling depression, it is because the words are taking root. So the other part of this, in addition to kind of understanding where have I seen this before, is the little girl showing up or is the grown woman showing up, is the fact that when a grown woman shows up, we have conversations. Little girls cry, grown women have conversations. And I know many of you are in tough spots where you can't even have an intelligent conversation. And what I would say to that, and this is one of the things I said in the video, was the first conversation is not with him. Your first conversation is with you. It is the conversation with you that reminds you that I am whole. It reminds you I am the gift. Not in an arrogant way, but that I do have something special, that there is nobody like me on the face of the earth, that God was intentional about me, that every hair on my head, even with all of this hair, all of this crazy hair, they are numbered. God says that I know you, that even before you were in your mother's womb, I knew you. So I want to talk to the woman that started from that place. The pure woman before the abuse, before the rejection, before the chaos and confusion, before the neglect. The woman that God spoke to in the spirit realm and ordained for right now, who sent you for such a time as this. That woman is whole. That woman is clear. That woman is confident. That woman knows who she is. And so it is essential. And that's why, the other part of the video was really about you taking time to ground yourself in truth. When you don't ground yourself in truth, then you take on other people's truth. Did you hear that? When you do not ground yourself in the truth, you are subject now to other people's truth. Which is why on today, Palm Sunday, I know it doesn't feel like a traditional Palm Sunday, but this is the beginning of Holy Week. This is the beginning of Holy Week. It is essential that you ground yourself on a daily basis. This is a 30-day process, and we are almost halfway to the halfway mark. But the idea is that on a daily basis, you would start at your foundation. That you would stop letting other people define you. That you would stop letting other people tell you what is true about you. That you would stop going to other people and asking for their opinion about what you should do and what they think of you. What do you think of you? Like I said, every relationship is a mirror. And so whatever you are experiencing, I guarantee you that you have already done it to you on some level. If you are experiencing infidelity, and I know this is a hard word, but I've had to say it to many people. I have had to say it to many a couple where it's like, I don't know why he keeps cheating. I don't know why I keep having to deal with this. This person who just lies and this person who's so dishonest and you just can't trust them and all of this stuff, that we put on the other person. And yes, that person is wrong. Yes, that is a violation of the relationship, unless y'all got some other kind of agreement, which most people don't. And so, but you also, the other side of the coin is, where have I betrayed me? I'm so angry that other people have betrayed my trust, but where have I betrayed my own trust? Where have I been unfaithful to me? Where and when did my spirit tell me one thing and I made agreements with my spirit, with the woman in me who knew what was best for me, and then somebody came around and changed my mind and I ended up betraying me? Where did you lay in your bed, cry yourself to sleep, and make promises to yourself about what you would never, ever in life do again? And you allowed another person to pull you back in, and you're right back where you said you never would be. It is a betrayal of self. So before we can confront what is happening outside of us, we must And that is what the surrender is about. That's what emotional detox is about. It is about looking at the truth of who I am and taking full responsibility for the woman I let myself become. That taking my power back and saying that the fact that I'm still here, I have the opportunity to create another story, another chapter, another reality. I'm writing my life every day with the choices I make, with what I allow, with the people I choose to be in relationship with. No one forces me, I choose, and I am making decisions for me. So the reality is, and I know some of you are in some really hard situations. And I know at least one couple that I married myself. I did their premarital. I've been with you guys, married you guys as a minister, y'all exchanged vows. I pronounced blessing over you all. You've been married, but there's been certain things that keep on coming up that I personally, because in those of you who really know me, you all know that I am very invested in you all. Probably too invested sometimes, but that I really take it personal when you guys hurt. And especially when I've had the chance to work with a couple, because some of you I've worked with you and your husband, and I take it personal when someone hurts you and vice versa. It's not just, oh, I'm mad at men, because I've met a few women that I was like, you're not right. You ain't doing this man right. He's a good man and you ain't doing it right. But in the same way, I can, kind of turn into a bit of a mama bear and get kind of protective, even though I know intellectually, I know this is your work. This is your choice. I cannot choose whether or not this is right for you, no matter how much I love the two of you, whether, if it's a couple I know or if it's you, just you. I'm getting to know many of you, and some of the things that you all are saying to me, I'm just letting you know, it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. But the only person who can change it is you. Is you. I know one sister asked me, like, oh, you've been through so much. Are you still with your husband? Yes. But not in the same way we were. It's just unacceptable. It's just unacceptable. And one of the things that I had to come to grip with, I know through one of our major separations where we really thought it was not going to work, this marriage is not going to work out. And one of the things that God revealed to me is that I was more in love with marriage than I was with him. That I had turned marriage into an idol. Can I say that? That I was so fixated on what are people going to say if Melissa isn't married. That was the focus. If I have to say I'm divorced, if my children, if we're not one complete unit, that I was more concerned with really what other people's opinions were going to be than I really was about him. It was more about also perfectionist type A, me not looking wrong. How do I save face? All that is ego. All that is ego. How do I look like I didn't make a mistake? And it was a really good minister who is a friend of both of us, of both my husband and myself, who kind of brought me back to reality during one point where we were really like, this is what it is. And I really thought he was calling me to kind of convince me again of, yep, you're just wrong. This is, you guys got to come back together. God doesn't like divorce, all of those scripture-y type things. But he came at it from a different perspective, and he said, Melissa, I just want you to know that God loved you before you were ever married. God loves you while you are married. And if you choose to not be married anymore, God will still love you. And it was like something within me broke because I honestly, again, I know my background. Remember the familiar. I grew up in a very kind of critical sort of background where I was constantly performing, trying to get it right. And some part of me, probably unconscious, felt like if my marriage failed, I am a failure. And if I am a failure, then I am going to lose love. I am going to lose respect. I am going to lose. It's the spirit of lack, that there isn't enough love. There isn't enough to handle this. But when he spoke those words to me, it grounded me back in truth because I knew that. We sing as little children. One of the first songs we learn as kids in church is Jesus loves me. He doesn't stop loving us. In fact, Romans 8 talks about how nothing can separate us from the love of God. Nothing. And I know some of y'all got some real legalistic husbands who are sitting up in your ear trying to act like pseudo preachers, talking about you're out of the will of God, you're a Jezebel, you're this, you're that, placing judgment on you. The word of God says no one can judge me but God. And even then, it says, I love you. Jesus says, I love you. And so some of us, again, are fighting against the shadows and the invisible, whoever it is, this invisible enemy trying to prove that you're a good enough wife, that you're a good enough woman, that you're good enough, that you're redeemed, give up the fight. Go back to the truth of who you are. And then you send a grown woman in. Send a grown woman in instead of that little girl to deal with that man who is most likely, from some of the behaviors that you guys are emailing about, most likely operating like a little boy. And little boys and little girls don't do anything but fight each other. But when a woman shows up in the room, and I know some of you are witness to this, it elevates the atmosphere. And a man has to meet a woman. A boy can't meet a woman. So when you step into your woman place and you operate in the power that is yours, that you have been given, the woman who shows up to work, the woman who has kept your mind, the woman who has not let you check out of the world, the woman who has brought you through everything you have been through. When that woman shows up, not popping her neck, cussing nobody out, not ready to scratch anybody's eyes out or cut anybody's tires, because that's all a little girl, that's a teenage girl. But when the woman shows up who says, this is what is now required. And either a man is going to meet you or a little boy is going to go away until he can become a man. And we have to be okay with either. That's what the surrender is all about. Are you okay not getting it your way and letting God have his way? That's the question of the hour. Can you be okay? Because when that pastor said that to me, I became okay with the reality of, I'm just plugging in my light again, with the reality that I may not be married. I had to be okay with that. And it wasn't until that point that I realized that that's the enemy I was fighting. I was fighting shame. I was fighting the peanut gallery and what people are going to think. I was fighting my perception of failure, that Melissa could make a mistake. Yep. with all of her intelligence, with all of the ways that she helps other people. Look at that. She couldn't help herself. I had to be okay with that. And when I became okay with that, when I surrendered to that, that is when everything changed. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But I don't move in fear anymore. I don't move in fear of, well, oh my God, what if this happened? What if our marriage don't work? What if it doesn't? What does that mean? I'm still a daughter of God. I'm still loved. And I'm still me. I'm still valuable to me. Marriage doesn't make me. God made me. So I know that's a lot for you guys to think about. Like I have said, some of you are not ready for a conversation with him until you have the conversation first with you, until you remind yourself of who you really are, until you begin to shed and detox yourself. And some of us, you really need to spend your Sunday doing that. I'm not sending out a formal devotional because really you need to ignite your senses. If you have essential oils in your home, this has been a heavy week. I want you to be bathing yourself in essential oils that lift your spirit. Pull out your lavender. Pull out, I'm trying to think. I have my frankincense, which it's kind of a pricey oil, but different things that motivate. Eucalyptus awakens, some of the oils that really just awaken the senses. Take yourself a walk if you can. If you have the liberty to walk around the block and still social distance, don't go to some crowded area, but just go and be with God and let God remind you of who you really are. And whatever it is you've been listening to, that is not the truth of you. Let the truth come up from deep within. And I pray that it would take root and that nobody would be able to snatch out the truth, that it would ground you and strengthen you as you move in your day and in your life and throughout your relationships. And I pray it would give you the framework and the courage to have some hard conversations. Okay? Again, conversations are not about getting agreement. They are about letting people know where you are and making a specific request of what you need moving forward. And we may have to do that's a whole nother topic of actually how to make a request. I know it seems very simple, but from doing this work, most of us don't even know what that is. But short version is that a request is specific, sort of like what we did with Tanya, with her daughter. What do you want done? When do you want it done? And you're not saying, sure would be nice. You're not making a suggestion. You're not making a hint. You're not speaking hypothetically. You are saying, would you be able to do? Would you mind doing? Can we do this next Friday? Can we sit down and have a conversation? Okay? And the other part of that is most of the time, I would say 85% of the time, a man will oblige you and say, yeah, we could do that. They may have an attitude. Yeah, we could talk. You need to be clear about what it is you're asking for. And you don't do that at a time that you're in the height of an argument or tensions are flaring. You do it when things are settled. So again, the grown woman has more of an opportunity to talk to the man, not the little boy. And you guys set, a little bit of ground rules. And you use a lower tone of voice. just like I'm using with you right now. You're not talking to men like they're your kids, because they're not. If you treat them like a man, you're more likely to get them acting like a man. But if you treat them like a little boy, that's what you're going to get. A little boy who's throwing tantrums and acting like a jackass and running through a china shop. That's what you're going to get. Okay? So let's break these patterns. Take a look at you. I know this was a little bit long. I'm looking at my timer. I'm like 40-minute long video of just me by myself. But I know some of you have really requested this and needed this because you really wanted to get more of those nuggets that you missed in last week's Facebook Live video that was a little bit choppy. So I pray that this blesses you. And feel free to write your questions down. It is almost 10 p.m. on Sunday night here. So if you are putting a lot of questions in throughout the day, I will get them in the morning, which is your night. So don't feel like people aren't responding. It's just, and also some things I like to take in and kind of give some thought about and not just boom, just type out some answer. So, hope this is helpful. Love you ladies to life. Do some body work today. Like I said, ignite your senses. Do some things that make you feel good. Light some candles. Drink some herbal tea. Begin to do some release work in your body to move all of this emotional work through. You guys are doing a fabulous job. I look forward to our third coaching call on this Thursday, and your next meditation will be in your box on Monday morning. God bless. Bye-bye.